Hello there, this is LaVar Davis. Welcome to CM40 Basic Training Module, where we consider CM40 Overview and Basic Data Flow Concepts. So first, you might be wondering what CM40 actually stands for. The name actually means Coordinate Measurement Machine Management Mechanism for Data, which is a big name, but what it implies is that it's a data management system that allows you to manage, analyze, and report on your product quality validation data. So again, the key to solving any type of variation really lies in your ability to visualize and analyze your measurement data as quickly as it comes in. And the purpose of CM40 is to basically allow you to do that, to make quicker decisions based on the measurement values that are being brought into the system by marrying CAD product models to the information in 3D space, and it gives you a analysis engine or tool in order to make reports on your data. It allows you to format your information into these reports using different charts, graphs, benchmarks, tables, and other ways of looking at your data so that you can easily understand issues involving your data and do problem solving or root cause analysis and other troubleshooting. So the system is very robust. It allows you to customize the report layout to whatever desire that you want. It can load in a multitude of different output device formats, whether it's laser tracker data, Datamite, Perceptron, Roamer, or some other output device that's used to collect your data. It can take that information, store it, let you manage it, analyze it, and report on it in a way that can also be automated to kind of give you the minimal time to look at the information, make decisions based on the data, and improve the quality of your product. So the CM40 suite comes with many different modules that all work together in order for you to upload and process dimensional analysis or dimensional data, to create reports in order to do any type of analysis, and then to produce or send that content to end users either through the web or through printing of PDFs. And what we'll do is look at the major components of the CM40 suite with just a brief description of the purpose of each one. So the first component that we'll briefly mention is CM40 Classic. CM40 Classic is where a developer or an end user can build a template which can combine the data, the measurement data, a 3D CAD model, and also required statistical analysis into an easy to use view or series of views on different pages to make a report. These are typically called templates. Templates can also be registered for printing in our module called CM40 Web, or later on in a module called ATS Reporter. These reports can also be scheduled for automatic printing whenever new data is available, or on a timed basis as well. This is triggered by Datasmith and Datasmith batch, which will see that there's new data available and tell the system to print the PDFs if that has been set up for your reports. The ordinary users or developers can open up the existing templates They can view any type of date range within the template, and basically change the sample set and dynamically change what the charts are going to read out based on that sample set. The next module to consider, or the major module that we have, is CM40 Interactive. It's similar to CM40 Classic in that it's an interface where a user can make a report or view data visually for their output or dimensional analysis data. But in interactive, special templates can be customized for whatever your customer needs dictate. And this special template basically becomes an interface which allows the end user to use any available data and kind of generate a report on the fly using predefined drop-down report types, using SIFT rules that can be predefined where they can pick the types of data that they want to see in the report. And in this way, a lot of time is saved when it comes to developing reports as opposed to CM40 Classic, because all the core elements are there in the interface for the user to simply click and have the interface itself create the report for them. Another interface is something called CM40 Web. CM40 Web is an interface that allows an end user to go to a web page and print a predefined report, set up a query, request a PDF showing the latest data, and basically allows you to skip having to come to CM40 developer in order to print your reports, but instead you can go to a web page, print off published or scheduled reports, which can be created automatically through the automation of the CM40 system. One of the other major modules is Datasmith. Datasmith is the tool that is used in order to take the raw data, in other words the nominal and the actual data, and load that information into the CM40 database. So in order to do that, we have to configure Datasmith to translate or scan the contents of the output files coming from your different collection devices. So a translator is neither part specific or feature specific, but is format specific. So if you're measuring 10 unique types of parts like fender, bulkhead, side frame, roof, and other parts such like that coming from a collection device, say a CMM, or if you have a laser scanner, all you have to do is develop a translator based on the output from that laser scanner or that CMM, and then that one translator can be used for anything that you measure on that collection device, and for any part coming off from that collection device. So again, the translators are format specific and usually made once and then just reused by the system or end users after that time. So related to Datasmith is a module called Datasmith Batch. This is set up on an application server that the software can be installed on, and allows an administrator to create parameters for the batch mode for Datasmith for loading data. So typically, setup tells the system where to look for files and how often, which types of files to load, which translators to use, and what to do with the files or where to store them after the processing has happened. So with Datasmith Batch, it's scanning whatever inbox or folders on the network that you tell it to look at continuously, and anytime new data appears, it will grab the files based on the criteria you set up for how many to grab at once, It will load that data with the Datasmith translator that has been assigned to that particular job and handle the uploading procedure for any new data coming into your system. There is also a module known as CM40 Scheduler. This module allows an administrator to set up timed printing of reports, or the printing of reports based on when new data has become available in one of the inboxes, which is scanned by Datasmith batch. It's also used to decide when templates will be generated by reports based on the event system that can be set up for the software. That's related to another service called CM40 Launcher, which can handle those events. And also that works in conjunction with a system called Eventsmith, which can be used to send out emails if user-generated alarms are violated or basically activated by bad data. That's set up usually within the CM40 Classic reports and works in relation with CM40 Scheduler jobs in order to check for those events whenever new data has been populated into the system. Eventsmith has a few places where it's configured. One is in CM40 Web, where people or end users can subscribe to whatever events have been set up in CM40 Classic. And then the job for Eventsmith that handles the generating of those emails can be set up within the CM40 scheduler system, along with the printing of PDFs for new data if that's something the end user wants to do. So those are some of the or the main major modules that make up the CM40 suite or system. There are a few more which relate to connecting to the database or doing any editing, deleting of information out of the CM40 database. More about those modules can be seen here if we go to ATS Help or in the help file with the software. There's a section, what is ATS CM4D, where it describes some other aspects of these modules. For instance, CM40 Reporter, which is kind of a standalone version of the main CM40 software product. It's very similar to CM40 Interactive, and is installed on a client computer as kind of a standalone all-in-one reporting package. There's CM40 Work Cell, which is also similar to CM40 Interactive, except that it allows the end user to see data as it is being uploaded or basically outputted from the collection device, and the information can be seen in the interactive interface before it's actually gone into or uploaded into the CM40 database, so that they can reject samples or validate them before that information gets into the database. Data Archiver is an application that allows you to pull out old measurement samples coming from CM40 database. If a customer wants to say save space on a SQL database or remove older samples, they can use this application to pull those files out from the database and save them locally or on a network drive, and can be read back into the database later on if need be. Data Utility is a program that allows the end user to make changes or edits to the database, whether changing nominal information or deleting samples. DB Connect is a tool that just allows a client computer or the server version of CM40 to connect to the SQL databases that are used to house the information from the collection devices or that they'll be reporting on. And then finally there's Site Manager, which allows an administrator to set up user rights and permissions, access to different databases, and basically privilege and access rights. So all of these, or most of these, will be covered throughout the different training videos. But what we'll talk about is just, again, some of the major modules that all end users would basically use in their system. So now that we've talked about the different modules that make up the CM40 suite, let's talk about how they relate to each other and where they would reside on different servers within organization's infrastructure or architecture. So from an IT standpoint, this illustration kind of shows the relation between different servers that can exist for different groups of the applications. All of this can exist on one server. That would be the simplest setup, but we're also illustrating if different elements were on different physical computers or servers, what the setup would look like here. So to start, if the company is using what's known as the enterprise setup for CM40, which includes automation, CM40 Web, and the ability to manage end users with the site database, then basically they would have at least one application server where they would have CM40 Batch, Scheduler, Launcher, and Eventsmith installed through the CM40 application or server installer. Also, there would be a license server where ATS licensing would be installed and a CM40 license would be added for end users to grab the license and be able to use the software, as well as the application server. The end users would have the installation installed on their desktop clients. That has a separate client install where that would include CM40 Classic, CM40 Interactive, and Datasmith as some of the major modules in that installation. Both the application server and the client installs would need to have access to a SQL database server where either just the CM40 database or with the enterprise system, a CM40 site and CM40 database would be created within a SQL instance so that the application and client installs can get to the stored data that will be uploaded through Datasmith. Also, with the enterprise system, you would need a web server for CM40 Web or for ATS Portal if you plan on having end users be able to choose reports from the web interface or view PDFs from a central web interface. And then finally, you would have a file server that's used to hold the content generated by CM40 Classic through the end users creation of CM40 templates or the automation's creation of PDFs, as well as a lot of support files such as the CAD images that the reports would use, any standards that can be saved off within the CM40 software, or archived data that has been uploaded into the CM40 database through Datasmith Batch. Again, all of these components can be installed on one computer if you have a server setup, or it can be on separate computers as shown here, or maybe a combination depending on the customer resources. The last thing I wanted to add was that for just a client install, you would need, again, the client install that gives you Classic, Interactive, and Datasmith. You would need a database server and a license server. Otherwise, with Enterprise, you would also need the addition of the app server, file server, and web server. So again, hopefully this diagram is helpful in explaining how the different modules would be stored on these different servers and the relation to each other. And with that, we will kind of end this module just talking about the major programs within the CM40 suite, and we'll go on to more specifics such as how to load data and create translators, how to work within CM40 Classic, what the CM40 interactive interface looks like, and further complex topics such as going into Site Manager, setting up jobs in Scheduler and Datasmith Batch, and also Eventsmith. And then also finally working in CM40 Web. So again, thank you for attending this module, and next we'll go into more specifics about these different applications.